In this episode, I talk about which pens are good for wedding gifts, which pens will fit Goulet Nibs, and the one pen I would never recommend to anyone. Hey there, Brian Goulet here of gouletpens.com, and it is episode number 169 of Goulet Q&A. Just finished up Mother's Day this past weekend. It was really nice. Rachel and I did a little weekend getaway together, so that was kind of cool. Had good family time. We just went on a family vacation, but her and I needed a little alone time. So that was kind of cool. Always nice to do that. We have not done that a lot, so it was kind of nice. And that's kind of it. Everything else has just been work. But we've had some products come out, some new stuff. We haven't had a ton coming out recently, but we have some new things that have literally just come in this week or will be coming in next week or a few future weeks. So one of them is Edison announced some new colors of the Pearlette. So that's kind of cool. So we got 3 different ones that I have here to show you. And I need to look up the names of them because I have not spent a lot of time to get super familiar with them. So give me one hot second here. Literally, sometimes I have to look things up on the website because I can't remember. Okay, Sonoran Sunset is this amber looking one, really nice. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see them. I have so many pens to show you guys today, it's just insane. So Sonoran Sunset, really nice color, kind of an amber thing. It catches the light beautifully. Look at that, wow. Awesome. Then we've got Canyon Trail, which is kind of this, taupe type color, a little bit darker than that maybe, but kind of a gray, brown, like a smoky quartz type of thing going on here. And then Azure Skies, really nice looking blue. Of course, I'm all about some blue, but this is nice turquoise type color. So very cool, Edison, great job on these. Again, this is the only Edison in their production line that uses the number 5 size nib, so just be aware of that. It's got kind of a thin grip, but it's a light pen, eyedropper convertible, standard international cartridge converter. So awesome pens. Glad to see that Edison's coming out with new colors because I think these are hot. So good job there. All right, let me pull the rest of my notes back up. Okay, what else have we got going on? Some Olive Travelers notebooks. We got in small shipments. We keep getting these little micro shipments in, so we have not publicized them greatly, but we had the first shipment that we got in, we had a big email notification list, and we did not publicize them just because there were so many people on the list already. We just sent them out, or just put them online and then let the email notification list. They sold out in about 4 minutes previously. This last batch sold out in 24 minutes, so big window, I know, but we're told that we're not going to get more until probably July. So it's just, I'm sorry if you've been waiting for those. We cannot control how much stock that we get. And that's what we got. So we also have just recently restocked on Leuchtturm bullet journals. Thank goodness, we've been out of those for months. These are the official bullet journals that Ryder Carroll helped put together, so really excited about those. Been out of those for a couple of months now, so we got them back in, so that's super exciting. Also, we will be launching very soon the Some Lines a Day journal, which is really cool, and since I have one in my hand, I thought I would show it to you. So it's a black journal, it's called Some Lines a Day. It's very thick indeed. Let me just show you what it's like compared to a regular Leuchtturm here. So here's a regular Leuchtturm. And just show you in comparison. It's the same size, overall A5, but it's much thicker. And the idea behind the Some Lines a Day is it literally just has a little bit of blank space. It has one day for each page. So if you look, here's like May 31st. So it has 20 and then you write the year. So it has 5 years on one page. So literally you go through each day for an entire year and you just write some lines about what happened that day. So it's a nice little journal prompt. It's not too overwhelming. You can just write a little bit. Even if it's just a couple of words. And then as you're going to the future years, you can see what happened on that same day in previous years. So really kind of cool. I dig the concept. I thought it was really neat. So I got one for myself, and we will have these on the site soon, probably later next week. So be on the lookout for those, but those are pretty interesting. We heard word about those like 4 months ago and have just finally are getting our hands on them. So What else are we getting? We're going to be restocking the Visconti traveling inkwells very soon. Been out of those for quite some time, so be on the lookout for those. And then just Diatramentis in general. We have stuff that we ordered literally back in January that's just coming in now, so should get a decent amount of Diatramentis in if you've been looking for that. And then we got a couple of new things that are going to be forthcoming. One of them is the Conklin Victory. If you followed me and Rachel on Instagram, we talked about these a little while ago, a few weeks ago. So we did go ahead and set these up because there seemed to be some interest. So these are Conklins that have number 5 size nibs on them, just like the mini graph does. It's kind of an interesting shape. It's got a clip, this big hinge clip that goes all the way up the top there. The orange color seems to be of most interest. You know, it's a wrapped pen. It's not a, so it's a metal pen. It's all metal. It's got a very firm snap cap on it. So, you know, snaps tightly in place there. It's postable, cartridge converter, so pretty standard pen, but it's in the $40 range. So it's a nice kind of affordable, semi-affordable substitute of a pen for some of the other pens in that price range, so you can check that one out soon. And then we have the Conklin Herringbone. I think I've mentioned that recently, but I didn't actually show it. But here is the herringbone. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see what's going on there. The pattern on the herringbone, we have these ones. I think I'm going to be talking about that, and maybe that's why I'm talking about that in a question. Maybe that's why I pulled this out, but we got those as well. And then the Monograppa has the pen called the Felicita. So it looks very similar to a Fortuna. I have a Fortuna Copper Mule right here. So it kind of emulates that a little bit in its styling, but it's thinner and smaller. So it's and it's more affordable as well. So it's about half the price of a Copper Mule. But you can get an idea of what it looks like. And one of the things that I really like, a smaller nib of course, one of the things I really like on this is that it has a resin that matches the pen on the grip as well. Typically with a pen this design, I would anticipate seeing a metal grip, but really like that they have that little touch. It's a very light pen, very thin. Rachel loves the overall size of this pen, and it's got the same, you know, little 1912 logo in the cap there, so some nice touches. So we'll give that one a try, and you can check that out. A couple of different colors, we'll have that on the site as well. And then what else have we got? The Aurora 88 Flex in the yellow. We'll have a few of these, not a ton, but we are getting some. Piston fill, ink window, gold flexible nib, same as what we've had in the red and the blue already. So we're getting a few more of those. They're coming out with like one color every month. Orange will be after that, and then I don't know what color is going to be coming after that. I think there might be a green or something. I don't know. So look out for those. What else have we got? The Aurora Duo Cart. Okay, so this is kind of cool. I actually have my hands on a sample of it so I can show it to you. So this is a pen that I heard about a couple months ago, and I have my hands on one. I've been writing with it for the nib nook and stuff. Very smooth, very wet writing pen. Relatively stiff nib, but it has a hooded nib. This is like a very vintage design, vintage inspired pen. From what I understand, this is a pen that they've kind of brought back from the days of old, and they have kind of vintage packaging too, which is really kind of cool. I mean, literally, I need to find out if this is literally vintage packaging, but it literally smells like, I remember my uncle's accordion case. That's what it smells like to me, literally the inside of his accordion case. So anyway, really kind of cool, but it's got a nice like leather type case. I don't know if it's actual leather or not, but you know, it's got the case on the inside and very old school kind of styling. You know, it's got a bottle of ink with it and stuff like that. So very interesting, very interesting. I think it's kind of cool. Aurora's been up to some good stuff lately, so I'd like to see that. Other things, Robert Auster River of Fire will be coming relatively soon. We have it on order. We're just waiting for it to come over from Australia, but we'll have that one. And then Platinum Classic inks as well. We'll have those soon. These are iron gall inks, kind of more traditional iron gall formula. They turn black after not very long to use them, so kind of colors that turn very dark black, you know, water resistant stuff. So that is also something that we have been thinking about for a while and you guys have been asking about, so we will have those soon as well. So lots of good stuff coming in. There's even more that I haven't mentioned yet, but that's just kind of stuff that I had to show and share with you today. Ooh, zooming all over the place. Okay, so I have a ton of stuff to show and talk about today, so let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? All right, for this week, I've got some pen and writing questions to kick it off. First question is from YouTube. Sorry, I do not know how to pronounce your name, but I want to give you pens. I want to give pens as a wedding present. The couple appreciate good stationery, but have never tried fountain pens. Are there any couple pens or pens thematically matched in a set of 2? If not, what 2 pens complement each other very nicely aesthetically? So most pen sets that I've seen have been traditionally different types of pens. Like you might see a pen set that's a fountain, a rollerball, ballpoint, pencil, some combination of the 4 of those things. Usually that's how they wrap up the sets. They don't usually do a set of 2 of the exact same fountain pen together. I really don't think I've ever seen that. So that you're probably going to need to kind of package up something together yourself, unless you think that one person might be into fountain pens, the other person might not be. Then you could just kind of see what pen and pencil sets or pen and ballpoint sets are out there, of which I don't have any, because traditionally sets don't sell very well for us, and there's not a lot of companies that offer them. Maybe in some of the higher end pens, but probably not necessarily something that you're looking for. So I think the route that you're going to want to go is go with a couple of lesser expensive pens that you can package up together nicely. One that I really like that's not super inexpensive, but depending on wedding budgets can be all over the place, but if you wanted to get something a little nicer that has really kind of, I think, a classy, somewhat of a vintage kind of vibe to it, the Pilot E95S. I'm a fan of this pen. It's got a cool inlaid nib, and it's just kind of an interesting pen, not something that you would see everywhere. And so it's kind of cool, and it writes really great. You can get it in this ivory and burgundy combo, or you can get a black and gold, so it can kind of match very kind of traditional classic styling on that. So on that you could give one or both people that. If you want to go a little bit less expensive, I think you could go with something like a Lamy Safari or All-Star. The reason I recommend these ones is because there's a lot of different colors to choose from. Of course, you could definitely go with something like a Pilot Metropolitan as well, depending on what color. If you give something in their wedding color, that would probably be pretty meaningful and kind of cool. So I think any combination of these, you could go as well if you wanted to kind of match something in their color scheme. Go with probably a fine nib on most of these. I think that would be the way to go. For somebody that hasn't really used a lot of fountain pens. You could also go with something, a little bit kind of fashionable or classy a little bit, like Faber-Castell. I think of Faber-Castell as like a wedding gifty type of pen. This one right here is made of wood. That could certainly be a good groom's gift. Of course, there's other ones, like there's the Guilloche that's going to be coming out, and there's some other Faber-Castell, but they're all very kind of classy, very, kind of metal and wood, or, some kind of resin that has like an engraving in it and stuff like that. And there's some interesting stuff that just kind of speaks wedding stuff to me. I think you could definitely go that route. And then the other recommendation I have, if you want to go, again, kind of zooming back up in terms of pricing, go with a Pilot, like a Vanishing Point and Decimo. Similar styling pen, but one's a little bit thicker, one's a little bit thinner, male and female kind of thing traditionally. Depends on the size of their hands and stuff like that, but I think if you went with the Vanishing Point, could be good. You could go with different colors that might match their wedding color scheme, or just kind of, if they have a favorite color, it could be something good there. So I think you can come up with something pretty decent out of that. Of course, there's all kinds of stationery and ink and other things you could go along with that. You could go with whatever color pen, and you could just get an ink that kind of matches their wedding colors. Could be kind of neat, but I think that would be a really interesting way to go. All right. But good question. Haven't gotten that one before. All right. This question is from the Film Darkroom on Instagram. Hey Brian, you talked a brief second about the OMOS 360 being a triangular pen. Besides the standard round or cigar shape and the OMOS, what other shapes are out there? Thanks for the great work. Well, I appreciate the compliments. I grabbed way too many pens to show you here today, so I'm going to show them all to you because I went ahead and pulled them all out. So here we go. It's going to be pretty cool. I did try to do a little bit of research. Like, are there commonly known shapes? Like, I know cigar shape is one that's kind of commonly used. Other than that, I don't really know. I mean, you'd think I would know just about everything about pens, but I don't really know traditionally what shapes are talked about with most pen people. So there may be some proper terminology out there that I'm just not aware of, and I may be making stuff up here and not making a whole lot of sense to you, but this is the way my brain works, and these shapes that I am just making up within the last 24 hours to answer this question. So I've kind of grouped them into different ones. You can check the blog to get more specific details of some of the breakdowns here, but I will at least try to explain to you the logic of my brain and what shapes I'm talking about here. So shall we fall down the rabbit hole of my brain with pen shapes? Yes, let's do it. All right, so the first one is a cigar shape, which is really kind of a traditional shape. You mentioned the cigar as being one that's pretty popular. I think of something like the OMOS Ogiva here, or maybe the Aurora 88. Both of these are pens that have been around for a long time. Of course, OMOS is now RIP, but this pen was around for a long time, and it's just very traditional shape, kind of straight down the middle, curved on the ends. you know, kind of looks like a cigar, right? That's kind of traditionally what I think is referred to as cigar shaped. So there's that. There's a lot of pens that would kind of fit into that category, but I think generally it's having like both ends kind of rounded is that cigar shape. Next one is one I would call a torpedo shape, and there's a couple different pens that I would fit into that category. One of them would be the Edison Nouveau Premier, very similar to a cigar shape except very pointy ends, or maybe it could be a little more of a general rounded shape like the Lamy 2000. So it's like fatter in the middle and really tapers harder than just being rounded on the end like the typical cigar shape. So I think either of those I would consider them to be a little bit more of a torpedo, maybe. Why not? Real torpedoes I think are more rounded on the end, but whatever. I'm just making this up as I go. All right, next one that I have is kind of a flat top, or what I consider like maybe a classic style. You know, the Conklin Durograph or the Nighthawk, maybe something like a Parker Duofold. You know, it's really just the cap is a little bit bigger, the body is a little bit thinner, it's really pretty straight, flat on top. Pretty generic, not generic, but you know, pretty predictable kind of design there, but just the flat kind of thing happening there is what I've got. The next one I have is one that I'm really just completely making up, but I call it the baseball bat. So that is one where you have a really big cap and it kind of tapers down to be much thinner down at the bottom. So this Delta Amalfi would certainly fit into that. Maybe it's because of the wood on the grip of the pen too. I just really associate that with the baseball bat. So that's one. This Stipula Da Vinci as well, really kind of fat on the top, tapers on the bottom. The Schrade Tactical pen would be another one that kind of tapers. Of course, this is different, like a zombie weapon type thing, but you know, definitely kind of all similar vein there as having that baseball bat general shape. Not a whole ton of other pens that probably fit into that one, but I thought it was interesting and I just wanted to share that. What else have I got here? Let's see here. One that I would call the tube shape, which is like a Lamy CP1 that really is just like, it's like a straw. It's just a straight up tube. You know, it's when it all fits together, the cap is not any bigger than the body. It's just all kind of one shaft that goes down. Generally pretty flat on the end. It could be kind of rounded too. You know, something like the Kaweco Lilliput could probably fit into a tube category. I don't know. These are all very loose fitting categories that I'm making up as I go, as I've said many times. The next one that I have, Lamy Logo would probably fit in that category as well. Next one I have is what I would call a bullet pen. So a very small, you know, maybe rounded on the end, but generally pretty thin and small. I think the Lilliput would fit in there. Maybe the Kaweco Sport, Stipula Passaporto, you know, something kind of small, easy to carry around. Maybe even the Pilot E95S could probably fit into that a little bit, maybe more. Maybe it's more of a torpedo bullet. I don't know. Some of these kind of cross over into different areas, but you know, that I call those little bullet pens. You know, they're just little carry around pens, daily carry kind of things. So there's that. What else have I got? Triangular pens. Why not? Like the Pelican Twist or the Omos 360, which is what prompted this whole question. It's literally a triangle. This one's twisted and all that, but you know, kind of fits into that. Now I'm getting into pen shapes like more on the, not so much on the end to end, but around. Could fit into that. Then you get into what I would call faceted ones. Technically, I guess the triangle ones could be faceted, so maybe they don't need to be their own category. But when you get into faceted pens, you're talking about it's not just round, but it's actually got a cut into it. So a triangle would be 3 cuts. When you get into a square pen, like this Visconti Wall Street, the original Wall Street, as well as the Opera Master, technically these are called a squared circle, where it's rounded on the edges, but then square here. I don't know of any pen that's literally a square. Well, I guess there are some that are a square. I think Monteverde is coming out with one called the Cube relatively soon that's literally like square. But anyway, very heavy kind of a squared design on these ones. Then you get into some other ones that are just even different kind of facets, like the Pilot Kakuno is hexagonal. I guess the Kaweco Sport could kind of fit into that one as well, is octagonal. Or octagonal would be, you know, something like the Omos Paragon, or there's other octagonal ones out there as well. And you kind of get into more facets, more and more facets. I think there's more. No, this one is 12, isn't it? Sorry. Yes. Octagonal. This is the Paragon would be 12, not 8. Anyway. Faceted, could be a lot of different things, but you know, like Visconti Divina has 5, so who knows? There's all kinds of different shapes out there, but that kind of covers most of them. So you got your cigars, torpedoes, flat tops, your baseball bats, tubes, bullets, and then your faceted, which you have triangular, square, all that kind of stuff. There's probably more formal, more official names than that, and maybe I'm showing my ignorance in terms of my pen history here as to what is generally considered, but if you have more pen knowledge than that, part of what I like about Q&A is you guys leave comments and I get to read them and learn something from you all. So that's kind of what I was able to pull out of my own little collection here and show you what I have in terms of pen shapes, but hopefully it'll at least be entertaining for you, if nothing else. All right, this next question is from Deepak S on email. How does Brian feel about the switch Visconti is making from the Lava Homo Sapiens to the resin design? Do you feel it takes away from the grail status of the pen? Okay, Deepak. Well, I wanted to answer this question partly to talk about the pen that's going to be coming out. It's called the Visconti Homo Sapiens Elegance. I haven't talked about that one much yet because I don't have any information on it really to share, but since you asked, I thought I would go ahead and just talk about it. But it's basically going to be a Homo Sapiens that is made of a black resin, and it is a cartridge converter as well instead of the power filler. So it's still going to have the same nib and all that kind of stuff, but it's going to be less expensive, less, kind of additional features. So if you wanted to get a somewhat more affordable Homo Sapiens, not that any of it's really what I would consider affordable anyway, but it's definitely more of a luxury item, but it's an alternative to the traditional lava pen. So it's not replacing the lava. I want to be super clear about that. The Visconti Homo Sapiens in the lava is not going away. The steel age is going to be going away. So maybe that's where some of the conversation is getting confused. The steel age just hasn't been quite as popular, and Visconti is kind of sunsetting that. So the bronze will be sticking around, but the steel age is going to be heading out. But the elegance will be coming in. So maybe that's where some of the confusion is coming in. So, but you'll still definitely be able to get the lava one. So I don't think the question is 100% on point. Do I think it takes away from the grail status of the pen? No, I don't think so. I mean, I definitely like the lava. I definitely like the power filler feature. But I think for those of you who really just care about how the pen writes, it'll still be nice. And one of the things that I do like about the resin is the hook safe lock that you have on here, the way that this pen latches in there, it feels super good. Super good with the resins. Like I have the Divina that's got the black lucite, and that just feels phenomenal. There is a little bit more drag because of the lava material with this hook safe lock mechanism, but you do not have that same drag on the pens that have the hook safe lock and the resin. So that's kind of nice. So I don't know, it could be something that some people actually find benefit to. So I think that, yeah, for some people they will consider, no, this is really the grail. But at the same time, you have pens like the London Fog and the there's other pens. There's another one that they're going to be coming out with that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it yet, so I won't. But they're going to be coming out with another London Fog-esque type of Homo Sapiens. That is resin, and it's not anything lava. And no, I don't feel that it takes away from the grailness of it. But that's just my personal opinion. You may feel very differently about that. Cool. All right, I'm going to show you a bunch more pens here, so get ready. This question is from Cathleen C on Facebook. What pens can use the Goulet Nibs? Very simple question. I like that. Very poignant. And the reason I took this question is because it's been a little while since I've talked about it. I know I've definitely answered about pens that take Goulet nibs, or a Goulet nib is a number 6 nib. So which pens will accept number 6 nibs? Unfortunately, I don't have like a universal facet or something on our search function on our site to be able to just easily show it. So I thought maybe you could see just this part and get an idea. So I'm going to list you a whole bunch of different pens that will accept a number 6 nib and work well with a Goulet nib, and kind of point out the ones that I think are best for it in terms of the way that our customers are using them, and the feedback from my team about which they really love the most. But it, by all means, is not a 100% exhaustive list, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'm literally just going to kind of take it alphabetically, because I went down my website and I was like, okay, what do we have currently? Because some of this stuff is like, stuff's changed. We've had the nibs for a number of years and stuff's changed. Anyway, so starting out, I have the Conklin All-American. Nice big pen, number 6 nib. It does swap out. Oh, before I get all into it here, just a little disclaimer here. Anytime you're swapping nibs in and out of pens, you're not going to be maintaining the original warranty, because Conklin, of course, is not going to warranty the way that the pen writes if you're swapping in a different brand's nib. So, and that pretty much goes for any brand. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to be getting into playing around with pens, you got to keep that in mind. You're kind of doing so at your own risk, whatever risk that is. Swapping, most of the nib swapping on these pens is pretty low risk, but still, if you run into issues, you're going to have to kind of troubleshoot a little more on your own if anything goes sideways. All right, so I got the All-American here, the Conklin Durograph, which I actually think is one of the better pens to swap out a nib with, especially if you want to expand your options a little bit. So Durograph is a good one. The Conklin Herringbone is a relatively new one. Again, also more affordable now. Could be a good one, just like the Durograph. It's a little bit heavier metal pen. So you check that one out. The Conklin Nighthawk, that one's already got a Goulet nib on it, so you don't really necessarily need to swap it, but by all means you certainly can, obviously, because it fits on there in the first place. The Edison Beaumont, this one I have here is the Stealth one. It's a limited edition, but you know, Edison uses Yovo nibs, just like Goulet does here, so these nibs will swap out relatively easily. And all these nibs that we're talking about here, these are, you have to yank the nib out of the housing and then put it in. The Goulet nibs are just individual nibs, so just in case you weren't clear about that one. Edison Collier is another good one that can do it. Again, kind of the same thing. Edison Nouveau Premier, same boat as that. You know, you're not gaining a whole ton by doing that because Edison's nibs are pretty great anyway, but still, it's an option. Jinhao is another really good option. I like this a lot. That's part of the reason why we carry Jinhao in the first place. Oh, look at that. The one I grabbed doesn't even have a number 6 nib. Okay, well this is, that's funny. This particular one has a number 5 nib on it that does not fit a Goulet nib, ironically, but the general style, you understand. The ones, we ordered one shipment and there's a language barrier sometimes when we have to order overseas, and when we told them we wanted a medium nib, they associated medium as medium in overall size, not in the tip size, so we ended up getting a whole batch of number 5 size nibs, and we blew them out early last year, if any of you remember that. That's why that happened. Anyway, but you can do that with an X450, an X750, you can do that with, sorry, I switched those. X450, 750, 159, all of them take number 6 size nibs that you can swap out Goulet nibs with pretty successfully. You can also do it with Karas Customs, the bigger size. The ink uses Bach nibs on theirs, which are pretty decent, but you can certainly swap it out with a Goulet number 6. If you really want to, you can do it with Monograppa, the Fortuna, or they have several other pens that use the Game of Thrones as a number 6 size nib. These pens get a little expensive, and you probably may not want to be pulling, yanking nibs out of it all too often, but you can if you are so inclined. The Monteverdi Invincia is another one. It's a bunch of different Monteverdi, the Mountains of the World, the Giant Sequoia, that all take number 6 size nibs. So you can really play with a whole bunch of different ones of those. The Nemesine Singularity, nice affordable pen that uses number 6 as well. You can swap that one out. And then let's see here, what else we got? The Noodler's Ahab. So this one is a good one because it comes with a flex nib. So if you want a non-flex nib option for it, of course you can get a Noodler's non-flex nib for very cheap, a couple of bucks. But if you want to use a Goulet nib, you certainly can get a little upgrade there. More options of sizes than just the one tip size of the Noodler's nib. But that's a good one, and I have that in the original Goulet nib video, as well as the Conrad. However, the Conrad has been tweaked, so that's part of the reason I wanted to update this particular video, is because the Conrad does not fit the Goulet nib reliably anymore. Some will fit, some won't. That was modified so that it would fit the nibs and work better with the flex nibs, but it sacrifices some of the versatility of being able to swap nibs out. So that was an adjustment that Noodler's made a year ago or so. And so now I don't highly recommend swapping out. I can't reliably recommend swapping out a nib on a Conrad. You may be able to do it, but I wouldn't buy it solely with that intention. Okay? Almost at the end here. Tactile turn gists is one that I think will fit as well. So they use Bach nibs on theirs, but it'll fit a number 6 size on there. And then, sorry, going back real quick to the Noodler's one, the Neponset is kind of in the same boat as the Conrad. So it'll fit on some, it'll fit on, not fit on others. So the Ahab is really the only one I recommend swapping it onto. Then lastly is the Twizy VAC 700R. It'll fit on the VAC 700 as well, but the R is the one that they currently have now. So you can pull it out of there. You got to be careful with the fins on these feeds because it can be easy to break them. So, but if you can be careful and you can swap those nibs out, you can do some good stuff. Again, let me back end it with a disclaimer here to say if you're swapping nibs out of your pens, if you break any parts as you're pulling it out or whatever, you may be able to get replacement parts, maybe. But it's not always so straightforward, so just be careful when you're doing it. You know, use a grip if you can, you know, use rubber gloves, whatever you need to properly grip it. You don't want to go just yanking stuff all over the place, and only do what you're comfortable with because you're kind of taking it at your own risk. There's definitely other pens that will take Number 6, Nibs, you know, but that's kind of the ones that I would just most readily recommend. The top ones for me being the Duragraph, the Gin House, and the Noodler's Ahab, and probably the Nemesine Singularity too would be pretty good. So kind of those ones would be at my tops. Cool. All right, let's talk ink, shall we? CEVT23 on Instagram. Why most brands only include cartridges, why do, I guess, most brands include only blue cartridges with the pen? Why not black, for instance? Big fan of yours, thanks. Well, thank you very much, appreciate that. Yes, why do they only include blue cartridges? Well, not all brands, I think that's just some brands. I see a pretty good mix, you know, in fact, I'm looking over even at some of the pens that I've gotten here, like I've got the Decimo. What does a Decimo come with? Let me just check. Comes with blue, fair enough, okay. So I see a good mix of blue and black. Sometimes there's brands that come with one blue and one black. I think the reason usually that you'll see a lot of blue is because that's traditionally what's been used as like a school color is blue. And a lot of fountain pens, especially the less expensive ones, like a lot of Lamy pens and other things like that, will come with blue cartridges because they're meant to be used by students. So, you know, Pilot uses a lot of blue. Let's see here, I've got this Monograppa Copper Mule. What does that come with? And honestly, like, to be completely truthful with you here, I don't list what comes with what pen. Copper Mule black cartridges right there. I don't list what comes with what pen on our site because the truth is it's not always consistent. You know, I think the cartridges that come with the pen are just somewhat of an afterthought for most pen companies. So if they run out of black, they'll put blue in. If they run out of blue, they'll put black in, and we'll get kind of a mixture sometimes. It's not 100% reliable. Like, definitely not all pens come with blue cartridges, just as an example. It's sometimes a mix. So, you know, that's kind of where my answer is going here, that I think it's a good mix, but I think the reason a lot of companies do blue is because it's a school color. Not so much in the US, but traditionally in, you know, Germany, Japan, and some other countries, blue is the color that's used in school. And it's technically like even a certain shade of blue, usually it's like a washable blue or something like that, because they would have these little tools called ink eradicators, which would be kind of like whiteout that would go over top of the blue, and the eradicator itself would have, you know, a blue that matches that. So it's kind of like that royal blue, that kind of right in the middle there, you know, like a Lamy blue, their cartridges, they always come with blue cartridges and stuff like that. That's why you're doing that, is because it's a school color. All right. Got a couple of business questions here. One is from Ryan M. on Facebook. And this is a question I get asked about a lot, so this will be good for you. It'll be a nice little update. So this is from Ryan M. on Facebook. Will you ever be getting Sailor inks and pens in stock? I do get asked about Sailor from time to time. Most of you loyal Goulet followers know that we used to have a history with Sailor. I'm not going to get all into that now, but I can say that, you know, I don't think Sailor is going to be in our foreseeable future. I would like it to be. We used to carry Sailor a number of years ago. I'll recap the history just a tad. We carried the ink. We tried some of the pens, didn't quite work for us. And then basically they did some kind of restructuring and determined that they only wanted retailers at a certain volume to be carrying their brand. And we did not fall within kind of where they drew the line. So we got, you know, we didn't make the cut. So we were no longer able to carry Sailor. There were some feelings about that. I had some hard feelings about it, just the way that it went about. The community had some hard feelings. To me, it's all water under the bridge now. I don't have any hard feelings anymore. In fact, I talked to somebody at Sailor at the DC Pen Show last year. We were all kind of make amends a little bit and apologize. From what I understand, there's still some feelings that, you know, go on at Sailor, and you know, I want to formally apologize, I guess, if there are any hard feelings still. I don't have any hard feelings. I would still like to, you know, do something with the brand in the future, but I'm willing to be patient as well. I know you all ask us about it all the time. Probably if you guys ask Sailor if they could, you know, maybe do that. I used to have a little bit of chip on my shoulder, just to be completely honest with you, but I'm really past that now. So I would be open to doing something like that in the future, but I know there's some reconciling and some relationship building to happen there, and I know that that hasn't quite happened fully yet, so I don't know exactly what the path to make that happen is at this point, but I would be very open to it. So perhaps it's a possibility. You know, there was a time when I never thought we would carry Visconti, and here we are. So, you know, I'm never going to say that, oh, we'll probably never carry XYZ brand, because it might happen. I don't know. I plan on sticking around for a while, and so I would like to see that happen. But if not, that's okay too. We got enough other things to keep us busy. All right, this question is from Isodomon on Instagram. Isodom? Sorry if I didn't pronounce it right, but anyway. Why don't many popular pen companies offer a lifetime warranty on their pens? I work in a fairly rough field and equipment breaks. In my search for an everyday writer, I found one within a reasonable price range, and the company recently discontinued the line. Frowny face. Well, a few companies do, usually only on their higher end pens though. I think it's not necessarily just such a pen thing, but think about like watches, you know, really anything that you're buying now, sunglasses, whatever. What are you buying that really has a lifetime warranty anymore? Unless you're buying really kind of bespoke, you know, high-end, handcrafted kind of stuff. It's just not that common anymore. I think just modern manufacturing and kind of the way things have gone is just, the whole lifetime thing is just not really viable. You can argue whether that's a manufacturer thing or whether it's a market demand thing. You know, I think a lot of people are, you know, buy it, move on. And a lot of people, if something breaks, they would rather throw it out than to get it repaired. That's just kind of a societal thing. I'm not going to get all into that stuff because I'm sure there's all kinds of arguments that could be made that get well outside of my area of expertise, but I think that's a factor. I think there's a societal kind of factor going on there. But I think in general, just the economics of it, of what you have to pay a pen expert who knows a backlog of 50 to 70 years of pen history and to have to catalog all of the various parts for all those different pens, it's very expensive and it's very difficult to keep that up for all the different pen models that have been around, especially because now the trend is much more coming out with a lot of different pen models. And, you know, if you look at, you know, the history of pens back in the 40s and 50s, there were not nearly as many pen models overall, and they would only release new pen models every few years or something like that. Now it's like just all over the place, and the companies are doing all kinds of things to come up with new and interesting things because there's just so much going on. It's hard to get people's attention. So I think that the whole viability of a lifetime warranty thing is just not what it used to be. That's my perception. I don't really feel like it's gotten any better or worse since I've been in the business for the last 8 years. But it's something that I think is just kind of indicative of just kind of where we're at as a society. So get all ethereal on you here, but yeah, I don't know that it's not something I get asked about a lot too either. You know, a lot of companies will do, you know, limited time warranties like, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, whatever. There are definitely some companies like Namiki with some of their stuff. All the Namiki, like the Urushi pens, they have a lifetime warranty on all their stuff. But they're very expensive, you know, so it's like, I think a lot of pens will make sure that they have, I guess what you would consider to be a manufacturer warranty, just like making sure that, yeah, there's no defects, you can use it for a year or two or whatever, but it's really not meant to be kind of taken care of throughout your entire life. But yeah, that's just kind of where we're at. I don't really see it going back the other way either. Maybe it could be changed in the future, but I doubt it. All right. And then the last question here, this should be pretty interesting. I wanted to take this question. I also didn't want to take this question, but I figured, what the heck. All right, so this is from skybisoninsta on Instagram. What would you consider the most, I said that weird. I was gonna say why, and then I said what. What would you consider the worst fountain pen and worst ink that functions in fountain pens that you own? Also, what pen would you never, under any circumstances, recommend to anyone? Okay, so since you asked me that language so intently and harshly, I'm gonna have to kind of cop out and say, I really don't have a pen that I would never recommend to anyone. I truly don't. Because if there's one thing that I've learned from having a rather extensive collection of my own pens and from being in this business for quite some time now is no matter what, you are going to have some people that love a pen or an ink, and you're going to have some people that are going to hate a pen or ink. No matter how popular or unpopular that it seems, you're always going to have people in both camps. Even if you have a pen that you think is absolute and total crap, somebody out there is going to think it's the perfect pen and absolutely love it. Now, not enough people probably would think that, so the pen will not stick around very long if that's the case, but there's nothing that I think that no one should ever, I don't like to use such extreme language in that type of case, but the one pen that I'll bring up here, and I hesitate to even do so because I get into a really sticky area with pens that I sell and talking about that I really don't like them or think that they whatever. But you know, this is my personal opinion. But I can say this rather succinctly here, and I've talked to our distributor about this. But the one pen that I will have, and my team would probably agree, is the Stipula Splash. So the Stipula Splash, you know, has a history here at Goulet. It was, you know, a number of years ago when Noodlers came out with their steel flex nibs. It was kind of a new concept, and you know, I even had phone conversations with Nathan about how part of his intention with creating such an inexpensive steel flex nib was the fact that he wanted to prompt other manufacturers to get into making less expensive steel nibs, flex nibs. He just thought that flex nibs were way too expensive on vintage pens and things like that. He wanted to prove that there was demand for it. And in a way, I think he was kind of right, because you're seeing a lot more of that now. Even in some of the higher end pens, you know, Auroras and stuff like that, you're seeing a lot more interest in flex pens than there used to be. But in the earlier days, there were just not that many options. So Stipula came out with the Splash, which that has a steel flex nib. Not completely unlike the Noodlers ones, but it's a rather small nib, sort of like the Noodlers Nib Creeper. It got a lot of flack because, you know, it works okay, but it's not even, I would say, probably as reliable as the Noodlers flex nibs. It does not have an ebonite feed or anything, so there's really minimal adjustment that you can do. People just thought that it felt a little bit cheap, which is understandable. So it was an effort that we took to try to offer an alternative to the Noodlers pen in a steel flex nib, but it got pretty universally rejected by our customers anyway, and it just did not go super great. So we have not carried it for a number of years now, but it sticks near and dear in our heart as a lesson learned from the pen community about what we should do. And you know, there were some people out there that liked it. Even when we sold it, it was not like the pen was universally hated. I think the idea was that people thought that the pen was not worth what was being charged. So that was kind of the issue. But part of that too was like when you go from a $14 flex nib, that kind of makes it difficult for just about anybody to jump in there and sell anything else. But now there's some other ones that are kind of getting in there. But that is probably the one pen that I would say when I was looking through my entire collection. I had a really hard time, honestly, because there's people out there that hate Jinhaos, and there's people out there that hate, you know, all kinds of things. But that was kind of the one that stuck out to me the most. As far as ink goes, gosh, you know, there's definitely some inks that I personally don't like. There's nothing that I think is like the worst ink in the world. There's some that are more troublesome than others. But usually the ones that are more troublesome have some other qualities, like, you know, Bay State Blue or Kung De Chang or some of these other ones that end up being, you know, equally loved and hated and stuff like that. One of the more troublesome ones that I've used is actually one that I love a lot. It's a Noodlers exclusive to Canada called Blue Upon the Plains of Abraham. It's a very thick ink, and I have the original formula. I don't have the new. I believe it's been revised now. I haven't used the new version of it, but I have the original one, and it was a very thick ink, and it has some flow issues, but that's really it. But it looks incredible. It's like a blue and purple with a little bit of pink in it. It's kind of an incredible ink, but didn't flow super great. So that one. But then it's funny too, because like, you know, other inks that I know are kind of not notorious is the wrong word, but infamous, like Parker Penman series of inks that were only around for a few years, but now they sell for like $250 a bottle. It's just crazy. But they had flow issues, and they did not play well with other inks in the pen, so that's why they got discontinued, is because they were causing the manufacturer so many warranty issues. But people now regard them so highly and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny how things like that work out. But for me, I think the ones that I can say I really don't like as much are like the really light yellow inks. I guess you can use them for watercolor washing and some accent type stuff, but in terms of a usable ink, you know, I'm gonna pick on a couple like Delta Yellow and Jeroboam Bouton d'Or and just some really like Noodlers Yellow. I mean, if you're mixing them, or maybe if you're doing something like that, it could be useful. But in general, these inks are so light and bright, you can't even read them. So that's kind of the one that I would really never recommend to anybody unless you're using it for a specialty purpose. So there you go. That's my big build up to the end there for this week. My question of the week for this week is, you know, I usually think of these ahead of time, and today I did not. So I'm just gonna have to think of something on the fly. And I usually try to pick something that's out of here, but let me go with let me go with talking about the pen shapes. So, I talked about, my bizarro classifications of pen shapes. Which pen shape do you tend to gravitate towards the most? Which is the most natural, which is most appealing to you? Do you have one shape that you gravitate towards? Do you like to have a variety? I like to have a variety, but if you look at all of your pens, do you see like, oh yeah, I guess I really do gravitate towards cigar shapes or whatever? I just kind of be curious to know. That'd be really interesting. So that'll be today's question of the day. Question of the week, anyway. Which pen shape is most appealing to you? So there you go. You can check out most of these pens, and I definitely showed a lot of them today. And now I'm going to spend the next 45 minutes putting them all back. But I can get somebody to help me with that. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your week, great weekend. Check these out on gouletpens.com and subscribe to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and right on.